All right, welcome to this explainer, where we're jumping straight into one of the absolute most chaotic, high-stakes reincarnation survival stories out there right now. Meet our guy, Moon Campbell. So, he's a modern dude who suddenly wakes up in a totally new reality. But get this, he didn't hit the jackpot and become the legendary hero. Nope. Instead, he reincarnated as a doomed, literal, trash-tier blonde villain in a world completely run by ridiculously overpowered women. Today, we're breaking down his desperate journey, all those wild plot twists, and how he literally uses his modern wits to survive a game that is completely rigged against him.
So, what would you do? Seriously, think about it. It's a terrifying realization. Moon pretty quickly figures out that his character is literally designed by the universe to be nothing but a stepping stone for the real protagonist of the world. In the original story, his fate is 100% sealed. He's destined to get totally wrecked, kicked to the curb by his noble family, exiled to the streets to beg, or, honestly, much worse, like rotting in a dungeon forever. Imagine knowing your future is a guaranteed disaster. What do? Well, you rewrite the whole script, right? Instead of following the original game's plot, acting like a total jerk just to provoke the real protagonist, Moon decides to hard pivot. His new game plan? Keep his head down, lay incredibly low, beg for forgiveness at literally every opportunity, and avoid the main characters like the plague. He figures he can just use his modern common sense to quietly change his fate. Honestly, it sounds like a totally solid, rational plan to survive. But, well, you know how these things go. The universe? Yeah, it has other ideas.
Just as he resolves to play the quote-unquote nice guy route, boom, a mysterious black book literally smacks him right in the head. And when a tiny drop of his blood hits the page, he gets sucked into this brutal, absolutely terrifying vision. He sees himself chained up, beaten, and tortured by this mysterious, shadowy girl who keeps claiming she's purifying him. Why? Because his heart started to change. He snaps awake in a cold sweat. And the book leaves him this chilling, glowing message: do not alter fate. Basically, if he tries to dramatically act out of character and just grovel to everyone, that absolute nightmare vision becomes reality. So he has to survive while still, technically, playing the bad guy.
Now, you might be wondering, why doesn't he just train super hard and fight his way out? Well, enter his dad, Lon Campbell. Let me put this guy's resume into perspective for you. At 15, a royal guard. By 27, an empire marshal. At 32, the Lionheart King. His dad is basically the final boss of the entire empire, a literal warrior who has never ever lost a fight. Because of his family's insane power and all the strict noble obligations that come with it, Moon is totally trapped. He can't just pack up and run away or refuse to play the noble game without facing the absolute wrath of his terrifying dad.
And that brings us to his very first major roadblock. Tomorrow is his 18th birthday banquet. Now, in the original story, this is the exact night Moon's spectacular downfall officially kicks off. Why? Because the original Moon was crazy enough to try and drug the third princess of the empire, Celia. And Celia? She's an immensely powerful ice princess. Our Moon knows he absolutely has to dodge this catastrophe, but he's locked into hosting the evening. So the big question is, how on earth do you survive a deadly magic user when you're the one scheduled to ruin her night?
Moon tries to outsmart the original plot by taking a little trip to the sketchy, loopholed black market. His big idea is to buy a simple, high-level sleeping potion, just harmlessly knock the princess out for a couple of hours, stage a little scene, and boom, avoid committing the real crime. Seems foolproof, right? But in a hilariously disastrous mix-up, the incredibly shady merchant ends up giving him an ultra-rare, insanely potent aphrodisiac instead. Oh boy. So the banquet kicks off, and the tension in the room is off the charts. Moon has to approach Princess Celia, who, by the way, has this incredibly striking, intimidating presence, and awkwardly ask her to dance. Oh, and get this, the original Moon was apparently so unhinged that his go-to pickup line was, "Warrior, I shall grant you the mercy of a dance." Yikes. So trying to desperately walk back his past weirdness, Moon eventually gets her back to his private room for a chat. His whole goal here is to just figure out how to slip her the sleeping potion in a cup of red tea without her noticing. But of course, in his absolute nervous fumbling, he accidentally uses that aphrodisiac instead. And rather than peacefully nodding off, the potion hits Celia completely differently. The temperature in the entire room literally plummets. She instantly pins Moon to the floor with this terrifying freezing magic. But because her brain is scrambled by the potion, her reaction is wildly unpredictable. She actually kisses him, only to immediately snap right back into a cold, murderous rage the second she gets a sliver of her senses back. Suddenly, she's got a sword pointed directly at his face.
Just as Celia is about to end Moon's second life, right then and there on the floor, bam, they get interrupted. An assassin, completely disguised as a fake maid, blasts her way into the room. The whole situation goes from 0 to 100 instantly. The assassin completely seals the room shut and cracks open a vial of dark magic, straight up declaring she's offering 100 souls to a dark god just to suppress the area. So now it's not just Moon's reputation on the line anymore. It is a desperate, bloody fight for survival against a highly trained killer.
Celia tries to fight back fiercely, but her ice magic is completely suffocated by the dark god's aura. The assassin knocks her down and lunges in for the absolute finishing blow. And in that split second, Moon pulls a total Chad move. With 0 defensive skills, no combat experience to speak of, he literally throws his own body in front of the lethal dagger strike just to save the Ice Princess. He takes the hit head-on. He collapses to the floor, coughing up blood, genuinely nearly dying in the process. It's a completely selfless act that absolutely shocks Celia to her core, instantly shifting her entire perception of him. Moon slips into unconsciousness, totally convinced it's game over. But while he's floating in this dark void, that mysterious black book from earlier pops up and reveals a full gamer-like system UI. And his stats? They are wildly skewed. They're based on the 7 deadly sins. He's rocking a negative 90% in gluttony, but a staggering 99% in envy. But hey, he finally has a system, a literal cheat code to help him navigate this impossible world, even if his starting stats are an absolute complete mess.
Now, this book isn't just a fancy status screen. It's actually a brutal, hyper-realistic simulated training space. Inside it, he has to face a phantom version of that exact same assassin who nearly killed him. But because he's still incredibly weak, he dies instantly. So he tries again and again. Guys, he literally dies 185 times in a single night. He grinds his stats up through sheer, agonizing, repetitive pain, pushing his mental resilience to the absolute breaking point. But you know what? That insane grinding actually pays off. He levels up. He gains Dagger Combat Level 2 and bumps his Shadow Step proficiency up to 11%. This is huge because it proves he finally has a real, tangible way to survive and grow stronger. But there's a massive catch. He quickly realizes he can't actually use any of these advanced physical techniques in the real world without channeling inner energy, or Kai. And if he tries to do that without destroying his own body, he desperately needs a high-level master to teach him the absolute basics of aura manipulation.
So, Moon's brilliant plan is to beg his totally overpowered dad for some training, but before he even gets the words out, his dad drops a bomb. He's leaving for the front lines to fight abyssal demons and might be gone for literally years. This completely shatters Moon's hopes for getting any immediate training. And to make matters exponentially worse, right before his dad rides off, he drops this massive, incredibly awkward ultimatum on Moon. He points straight at Anne, the beautiful head maid of the estate, and demands, "In 3 years, when I return, you better have a child." Moon, thinking with his modern brain, assumes he can just smoothly talk his way out of this arranged nightmare. He pulls Anne aside, acts like a total gentleman, and softly tells her that he doesn't want to force her into anything at all. He tells her to go out and find her own true happiness. He genuinely thinks he just pulled off the perfect, respectful dismissal. But oh man, he is so wrong. Later that night, Anne brings him a nice, warm cup of coffee to help him study. He takes his sip, and almost instantly, his vision blurs. The cup shatters on the floor, and as he collapses, the sweet, caring maid finally reveals her true colors. Anne is actually the shadowy, terrifying torturer from his very first vision. She is a literal level 99 yandere, meaning her version of love is violently, obsessively possessive. And Moon's gentle attempt to set her free, yeah, that just triggered her absolute worst instincts. Moon wakes up completely shackled to a wall inside a magically reinforced steel room. Anne is standing right over him, coldly declaring that since he tried to push her away, he has changed way too much and now desperately needs to be purified with her love. That's when it hits him with absolute dread. The inescapable fate he was trying so hard to avoid by just being a nice guy, it completely caught up to him. He is trapped, entirely at the mercy of a maid whose power rivals the absolute strongest characters in the entire story. Locked inside this steel box and being force-fed strength-enhancing monster meat every day, Moon has to rely entirely on his brain. He knows for a fact he cannot fight her. She is vastly, ridiculously stronger than him. So when she offers to grant him one tiny request for behaving,
He asks for a very specific seasonal fish from this super distant Lake Bipor. It's a totally calculated, genius move just to get her out of the mansion for at least a day so he can think.
So Anne travels all the way to Lake Bachor, and this is where we really get to see just how absurdly overpowered she is. There's this whole group of seasoned veteran adventurers getting absolutely slaughtered by a giant, lightning-spewing monarch-level shark boss. Anne just watches for a second, gets mildly annoyed that the monster's lightning is scaring away the exact fish she wants to cook for Moon, and casually, effortlessly, obliterates the boss using liquid metal and a sword she literally forges out of thin air. She one-shots a massive raid boss just to run a quick grocery errand. While she's at the lake, the adventurer's healer Erica actually asks Anne for some love advice about a teammate she's kind of obsessed with. And Anne's response? It is incredibly unhinged. She straight up tells Erica to follow her deepest, darkest desires, abandon all human morality, and if she has to, just break the guy's arms and slap a collar on him. Wow. It perfectly proves just how dangerously twisted Anne's concept of love really is, and exactly what poor Moon is dealing with back at home.
Back at the mansion, Anne returns triumphant and serves Moon the prized fish. And now we see Moon's real master plan unfold. Step 1, eat the fish. Step 2, secretly stash 12 specific, incredibly sturdy fish bones. Step 3, use those exact bones as makeshift lockpicks on his magical steel shackles. It is a high-stakes, insanely difficult escape plan. The lock has 12 complex magical pins, and if he breaks even one bone inside the mechanism, or if Anne catches him trying, it is completely game over.
While Anne steps out for a moment, Moon frantically gets to work. He uses his system UI to mentally simulate the lock mechanics, calculating the exact perfect height for every single pin. Snap! He breaks one bone, then another. He is sweating, totally out of time, and running out of resources. He makes one desperate final attempt. Click. The magical steel door actually opens, right at the exact second Anne is walking back down the hallway with the tray of food.
He is out. Moon sprints blindly through the pitch-black, abandoned, dusty corridors of a completely ruined wing of the massive estate. His heart is literally pounding out of his chest. He has to rely entirely on his body's old muscle memory and a tiny flickering orb of light magic just to navigate the pitch-black shadows. Every single shadow looks like a deadly trap. Every tiny creak of the floorboards sounds like his impending doom. But up ahead, he can actually see the exit. He thinks he actually pulled off the impossible. He genuinely thinks he made it out. Clang. A dagger violently strikes the stone wall, literally mere inches from his face. He freezes in absolute paralyzing terror. From the deep, pitch-black shadows of the ruined corridor, a calm, deeply terrifying voice whispers, "I finally found you." Wow. When the game itself is this rigged, and your so-called savior turns out to be your greatest threat, is survival even a choice anymore? You're definitely going to have to keep exploring this wild story to find out what happens next. Thanks so much for joining us for this explainer.